Hello there, I'm Tabletop Toby. Today we're going to be diving deeper into Tesseract. We're going to be doing a how to play and then solo playthrough. So what is Tesseract? Tesseract is a dice manipulation game. An alien Tesseract appeared at the magnetic north of the Earth, the size of a city block, and it's been collapsing down, and its destructive power is going to end humanity unless the scientists and smart people of the world can figure out what's going on and put a stop to it. They need to contain aspects of the Tesseract, and when that is accomplished, then the Earth will be saved. No pressure. So let's get into the how to play, and I'll show you what's going on here. Hint, there's a lazy Susan. Setup of Tesseract is fairly straightforward. We'll start with setting up the Tesseract itself. You have your platform board. You take the platform legs. They slide together super easily, and you just put that on there. You take the lazy Susan, and it goes right there. And then you place one of these base plates on the lazy Susan. Now there's 4 of these, and there's double-sided, and they're numbered 1 to 8. 1 is what they recommend starting with, and then it gets more complex going up from there. And the difference for these is these threat events. When you remove the last die in a column, then this is revealed, and that triggers that event. On the kind of beginner one, it's just these events on the left, and then you cycle in some of these more complex events as you go up in the base plate. So that's what the difference is. Now, it may be a little crazy for my playthrough, but we're actually going to do base plate number 4. So kind of getting in the middle of the pack of those. I've played this several times. I have not lost yet, although I've come close, but I feel like we need to push ourselves. So that's what we're going to do. You then take this dice sleeve and you line it up with the square in the bottom. Now here comes the fun part. You mix all the dice together, and then you grab some at random, and then you roll them into the dice sleeve, making sure that each level has a 4x4 grid before going up to the next level. And you keep going until all the dice are done and your Tesseract is complete. And when all your dice are in there, just kind of make sure it's flush on each side and lined up with the cube. You remove the dice sleeve and you have your Tesseract. All right, and then setup for the rest of the components are pretty easy. You have your breach board. You just have your breach tracker that goes on 0. You have your containment board, which is where you contain the dice from the Tesseract to save the Earth, and you shuffle the containment cards and you put 1 by each of these arrows that correspond to the 1 through 6 on the dice. You shuffle your 2, 3, and 4 level research cards and you put them on the side. And then each player gets a lab map, which has a nice built-in player guide that goes through all the actions that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Also, each player gets an action tracking token to track the 3 actions they can take on their turn. Then you have your researcher deck, which you shuffle, and then each player gets their assigned researcher, which has an ongoing ability at the top that's unique to each one, and then a specific unique action they can take as well. Now we've set up for a 2-player game. It does play up to 4, and so each of the other players would get these same components as well. Each player also gets a level 2 research card, and these are public information. We'll talk about what those do in a little bit. And then now we get to play with the Tesseract right away during setup. Each player gets to take 1 of the 4 corners and gets to roll them and put them in their lab, where they will start working on trying to contain the alien threat. So our crisis controller will take this one, and our transport engineer go for this one. And now the game starts with a little bit of threat. It's kind of like Pandemic in that the threat kind of expands over time, and you have to manage that threat as part of the game. So for a 2-player game, you just take the other 2 corners. There's rules for removal in the 3 and 4-player games. You can just check those out in the rule book. It's not necessary to memorize that information. So we take these and we prime them, which means we roll them, and they go by the corresponding number here. Do that for the other corner as well. And so that is priming those. And voila, we're all set up. And this is a great time, since we just primed these, to kind of talk about win and lose conditions. So starting with lose conditions, since we just primed these, when a cube is primed from the Tesseract, which happens in between each player's turn, if there are 3 or more in whatever row that die is going into, then a breach occurs and you move up this breach token. If the breach token reaches the end, you have lost. While we're on that topic, if there are ever 6 or more when a Tesseract cube is primed, that actually causes 2 breaches at once. So that is obviously catastrophic. That would end your game really quickly if you have too many of those happen. The other way that you can lose is during the threat phase. If there needs to be a cube removed from the Tesseract and there are no cubes left, that is also a lose condition. But let's talk on the positive side of things. So your objective to win, and there's only one, is to fill this containment board with 1 of each number for each color die. We'll get more into how you contain later. To say this player could contain this one, it goes there, this one contains this one, there. You fill it all up and you win. So the overall game sequence is 1 player goes, then there's the threat turn, the next player goes, there's the threat turn, and then it just cycles through each of the players. So for the threat turn, just because that's more straightforward, you prime a cube from the Tesseract. And the way you do this is you take the lowest number on the lowest level showing, and that cube is primed. It is rolled and then placed into the primed area. So if we were priming a cube right now, we would look at this lowest level, which is just the 2nd level down. There's a 4, there's a 4, there's a 2, and there's a 3. So in this case, we would take this 2, roll it, and it goes into the primed area. So that's the threat turn in Toto. So it is super easy on the threat turn to manage that. The real onus in this game is on the player turns. So on a player turn, you can take 1 of 6 actions, which are laid out on the player aid very nicely. You get 3 actions per player. Now there are some special cards and different things that allow you to take additional actions, but we'll address those as they come up. And then you also on your turn can play any number of research cards that you have in your hand. We each start with a level 2 research card in our hand, and those can be played before you do your actions. They can be played between your actions, or they can be played after your actions. So you have a lot of flexibility with how you use those. So the first type of action you can take is removing a cube from the Tesseract. You can only remove a cube when 3 sides are showing, and that's also true of the priming that we discussed earlier. When you remove a cube, it stays on the value that it's showing. It goes into your lab. So for this one, for example, we could take this yellow 3, which would make strategic sense for us, and it would go into the lab, and that would be 1 action. The next thing we can do in the actions is adjust, and this is adjusting up or down any cube either in your lab or in the primed area. Now you cannot adjust from 6 to 1 or 1 to 6, but you can go up and down between them. So you could adjust this 3 to a 2 going down by 1, or you could adjust this 3 up 1 to 4. Now you can also adjust cubes in the primed area by 1. So as 1 action, we could adjust this 2 to a 1. So the reason you would do this is because if there's 2 cubes of any number, if in the threat phase that number is rolled and there's 3 there, it's going to cause a breach. So you have to manage the cubes in this area as well as focusing on containing cubes. This is a good time to point out that in the primed area, when you adjust those cubes, if you adjust a cube over and there's now 3 there, that does not trigger a breach. A breach is only triggered when during the threat phase, a cube is removed and added to that. Now, something that's interesting with this is if you have a 1 cube, you can adjust it down and it is destroyed, and that would be 1 action. When a cube is destroyed, it's set to the side, it's left at its value, and there are some things both that the Tesseract and the research cards can do, and also the containment cards that bring those destroyed cubes back to life, usually on the Tesseract or in your lab, but there are some where they get primed from the destroyed cubes, so they're actually brought into the game to present greater threat. The third type of action is contain. So you contain from your lab, and you need 3 cubes in either a set or a run. So a set is 3 of the same number. So this would be a set. So if I have a set and they're either all the same color or all different colors, that's a second requirement of both sets and runs, then I can contain a cube from that set or run, which means that I place it over here and it is contained and it's building towards that in-game win condition. Now, I actually flipped these to 2 to show you a mechanism. There are 2 bonus actions you can actually take when you contain a cube. One of them is, say I contain this 2 of blue, you get to check the primed area if there is a cube that matches exactly what you just contained. In this case, there's a 2 there, you can destroy this cube. And generally, you're going to want to do that. There are some of the researchers that have some strategies around building up cubes in the primed area. And I actually think that we did draw one of those, so it's a little bit more complex of a researcher. But generally, you're going to want to destroy those to reduce the threat. So you contain the cube, you check and see if you can destroy a primed cube. And then the other thing you can do is you can actually roll the remaining dice of the set or run to get research cards. That's your primary way of getting research cards. So in this case, if I think I might want these 2, maybe there's another 2 there that I can use, and then I keep them. But if I think I might want a research card, I roll these go back in my lab at whatever number they are, and then I get a research card matching the number of dice that I rolled, in this case 2. So I would get this research card, it would go into my hand, and I would then have it available to use later. Now the sets or run have to be at least 3, so you could have a set or run of 4 and then re-roll 3 dice, or a set or run of 5 and you contain 1 and you roll 4. That seems less likely, but there is another way that you get advanced to higher research cards that we'll talk about when we get to that action. What's nice is the lab itself has a player aid that tells you the containment rules, so it's all there. The 3 or more cubes, they are all the same color or all different colors, so it's all there to remind you of that. The 4th action you can take is transfer. You can either transfer the cube from your lab to another player's lab or vice versa, although you have to get permission to transfer the cube from another player to you. They have to consent to that. So for that action, I would take this and give it to them. Maybe they're working towards purple, and then that would be 1 action. I mentioned there was another way to get the higher research cards, and that's the next action, which is study. Study, you discard a research card, so we could discard this 2, and then you get to draw 1 of the next higher level, and that is now your research card. We'll give some quick examples of the different levels and what some of those are. However, generally, as would make sense, the level 2 ones are less useful. The level 4 ones are super useful. And then the 6th action you can take is your unique action. As I mentioned earlier, each researcher has a unique action at the bottom here. And so we'll just look at these 2, but all 11 have individual ones. So you just have to read them and see what they do. And that's the option that's available to you. Some of them are limited. You can only use once per turn. Some of them, when you use that action, it actually ends your turn. So you have to be careful about the sequence of what you're doing if you get one of those. So we have our Crisis Controller. The Crisis Controller's special action is Lockdown. Contain a cube from your lab if there are 3 or more of that value in the primed area. So that would be if there's 3 or more of a 4 or a 2, then if I have the matching number here, I could contain that cube without having a set or run. Now that does mean I don't get the bonus actions that normally come with those, but I also don't have to use actions to draw additional dice. So if I adjust it to 3 so I could use my unique ability to contain a cube without having to get a set or run, that would be fine, except for if the Tesseract during the threat phase primed a cube into that row and it became the 4th one, that would then trigger a breach. And then we have the Transport Engineer. Their unique action is Package. Take 2 cubes of the same color from the Tesseract and place them into your lab. That is a huge efficiency. I guess that's why she has those drones that are doing extra work, getting things more efficiently out. So that is a really good one. So those are the 6 actions that you can take on your turn. As I mentioned before, you get 3 actions. Your turn would end, and then it would move to the threat phase of the Tesseract. We're going to talk about research cards in just a second, which I mentioned before. You can play as many of them as you want on your turn if they're in your hand. First, we're going to just return to those researchers. Since we were talking about the unique actions, each one also has an ongoing ability. So for the Crisis Controller, whenever a threat event is revealed, you may discard a research card to ignore that event's effect. So those threat events are the events on the base plate when a column, the last die is removed and that threat event is revealed. So the Crisis Controller, fitting with the name of Crisis Controller, can discard one of these research cards to prevent that event from happening. And then the Transport Engineer, Efficiency. Whenever you transfer a cube or a cube is transferred to you, you may adjust it. So that's interesting in combination with the Transport Engineer's unique action of Package, because they can take cubes from the Tesseract faster, and then when they transfer them, or this character transfers them from them, they can actually be adjusted. So for the research cards, we're not going to go through a ton of these. We'll deal with them as they come up. You know, you're just reading the cards and you do whatever they do. That's a dumb thing to say, but you know, it's true. So we're just going to look at the 2 that these players are starting with, and then we'll look at a couple of the 3 and 4s just so you can see what they kind of look like. So first we have Collaboration for the Crisis Controller. This is draw 3 unused character cards immediately. Play this card to use one of their abilities for no cost. So that's kind of a funky one. So you would take the researcher deck that we dealt the 2 researchers from for the starting researchers. You draw 3 of these, and then you could take one of the unique actions of one of those characters. So a little kind of random, you don't know what you're going to get. And then for the Transport Engineer, we have Realignment. Relocate up to 2 cubes on the Tesseract. So this could be maybe moving one down if this is getting low to push off a threat event. You can move from the top, maybe some higher number ones to kind of protect that area. All right, and we'll just take a quick look at a couple of the level 3 and a couple of level 4. So for level 3, we have Major Ripple, which is adjust 1 prime cube and 1 cube in your lab. Very handy to maybe reduce threat here and then help you in your lab. The other one is Rapid Containment. When you contain a cube, you may contain a second cube from that set or run as well. That's a really good one. That's a good card, kind of double your bank. And then for the level 4 ones, we have Temporal Anomaly. Skip the threat phase or decrease the breach token by 1. So that's helping prevent the in-game condition. And then Controlled Reaction. Play this card during any researcher's turn to cancel a revealed event. So that's again with the threat events on the base plate to prevent those from happening. And as I mentioned, you can play any number of research cards on your turn if you have them in your hand. And then I believe the last thing we need to talk about are containment bonuses. So when you contain all 4 of one number, you get to pick up the containment card next to the symbol for that number. Also not going to go through these, we'll deal with them as they come up, but just as an example of some that we're not playing with today, there's temporal anomaly, return 2 primed cubes to the Tesseract, so that's obviously huge to help reduce the threat and also to use those as a resource going forward. And then atomic shift is another example. Make 5 adjustments in the primed area. That's kind of huge too. You can maybe destroy some by moving them all the way down and getting them to 1 and then getting them off the board, or just move some of the threat if there's building threat over here, get them kind of moved down and spread out a little bit more. So the second bonus you get from containment is when you go the other direction, when you get all of one color contained, then that's what this symbol stands for. You get to take 1 destroyed cube and you get to put it back on the Tesseract. So you can kind of look, see what colors or what numbers you're missing from the destroyed cubes, and you get to put it back on the Tesseract for you to then use again. Last but not least, we're going to talk about those threat events on the base plates when those are revealed, when the last die in a column is removed from that base plate, revealing the threat event. So the ones on the left are more straightforward. None of these are good, but the ones on the left are probably not as bad because it depends on where you are in the game and what's going on. So you have accelerate, which is destroy the lowest cube on the Tesseract. So after you prime that cube that revealed that event, you have to then destroy a cube as well. There's fortify, which is re-roll the lowest prime cube, so that can kind of mix things up and cause a surprise breach potentially. Chain reaction, you prime a second cube on the Tesseract. Fission, prime the lowest cube on the Tesseract and 1 random destroyed cube, so that could be really bad. That's putting 2 threats into the primed area. And then you have these more complicated ones on the right. I don't think any of these are on the base plate we're playing with, so just really quickly, EMP wave, you have to reroll all cubes in a lab except for 1. EMP blast, you have to reroll all cubes in all labs. Interphase, which is prime cubes with even numbers, adjust up by 1, so that really shakes things up in the primed area. And then shockwave, destroy all cubes in labs that match the value of the newly primed cube. So that, depending on your luck and what you have going on in your labs, that can be bad too, or maybe not so bad. So I think that's basically everything you need to know how to play the game, but I think this is definitely one that seeing the game in action and how those strategies develop and why you would want to do some of these things, you just don't really get a handle on it until you're actually playing the game, which is often why I combine my how to plays with the playthrough, because just in the abstract, it's a little difficult to understand. So we're already set up, so let's go ahead and dive in and get playing. All right, so we're going to start with the crisis controller. We have a couple of 3s there, so take 1 action of removing this. So that is 1. I'm going to take a second action of removing this one. So that is 2. Now what's interesting is we could contain one of these cubes now, but it doesn't give us the synergy of destroying a cube. And there is a couple of 2s there that we could adjust to contain as well, but we could also adjust this to 3, so then if we contain that on the next turn, we destroy it. But if you recall, the special unique action is if there's 3 or more of any, then we can contain it, but that may just be something we do later in the game. So I think for now, we're just going to go ahead and contain, maybe look towards containing the 3s and getting those out of the way pretty early, but we'll see how it goes. We'll not contain the blue one for now, just in case we decide to maybe shift that when we do the next one. So for our third action, we're going to contain the purple 3. We don't have a cube matching, And then I don't think we're going to roll these to get a research card, which is something we can do when we contain as well, because there's 2 3s and we have 2 2s there that we could adjust pretty easily to maybe knock out most of the 3s. So that would be that player's turn. We move to the threat phase, which is remove the lowest number on the lowest level. So this is a 2. That is the lowest number of a removable cube. We prime it by rolling it. Get a 1. That goes there. And then the turn moves to the transport engineer. Now, if you recall, the unique action of the transport engineer is take 2 cubes of the same color from the Tesseract and place in your lab. So we are definitely going to be taking advantage of that. So we'll remove 1, and I think we're going to go 2. And so that is 1 action. Now we have all of 1 color, but we don't have a run or a set yet. But in the spirit of cooperation, our transport engineer is going to transport this 4 over here, and under the efficiency ongoing ability, whenever you transfer a cube, you can adjust it. So they're going to adjust it to a 3 to help set up the crisis controller on the next turn. If you're not cooperating between your characters, you are definitely going to get in trouble in this game. And then as our third action, could take 2 yellows from there. There's a 5 and a 2. Or we could upgrade our research card. But I think because of the efficiency of being able to, when transferring, adjust those and removing them, I think that is kind of her thing, is removing the cubes efficiently and then maybe getting them over. So we're going to kind of see how that works out. So let's do 5 because we have a 6. So if we could get a 4, 5, 6. And then we can do another yellow with the same action. I'm going to say let's do this 2 because we have that 2 there. So these are possible sets or runs that we're building. So that's the third action. And then we move to the threat phase. So the lowest number cube with the lowest level is this one. So we're getting perilously close to a threat event. So prime that. So there we go. We have a second 2 there. Now what's fascinating is if we adjust this to a 2, we'd have 3, and we could actually use our unique action here. And we do have the 2 2s over there. I think what we're going to do is we're going to adjust this for 2 a 3. Then we're going to contain the blue 3, and we can now destroy this cube. Although I do want to use the crisis controller special ability, I don't want to get too much going on here because it can get out of control really quickly. If you have too many numbers that there's 2 or more, then you can have a high percentage chance of getting a breach every time you're priming a cube during the threat phase. Now I do have the option of rolling these 2 for a research card, and I think with the numbers there, the possibility of using that 2 for the special ability, I think we're going to go ahead and risk that. So we do get a 2 there, which is kind of nice to potentially use that. And a 5, we do get another research card, which if you remember, their ongoing ability is that when a threat event is revealed, then you can discard one of these to avoid that threat happening. Now on the next threat phase, that will actually happen. So we do have these that we can avoid that happening potentially depending on what the threat event is and how bad we think that is. Now we do have this yellow, which is a 5, and this is 1 and 2. So those don't really help us all that much. But if I transfer this to the transport engineer, because of her efficiency, that cube can be adjusted. So wondering if we should transfer this to here and adjust it at the same time to 4, and then we almost have a run there. So I think that's going to be our third action. So that's the Urn of the Crisis controller's turn. And then we do remove from the lowest level here, which is this one. 3, thankfully not a 2, so we do not have a breach event yet. So now we have this threat event, which is prime the lowest cube on the Tesseract. I think we want to avoid breaches, even though there's only a 2 level. Well, maybe I could risk that. You know what? Let's do it. We have a lot of yellow. It's going to be that one, so I think let's go ahead. And we do have a 3 there, so now we're going to have a higher percentage chance of a breach happening. So we have to think about that as we're going into the transport engineer's turn. So we cannot use our magic ability if removing 2 of the same color, because we have 5 there, so we need to clear some of those out. So for our first action, I'm going to move this to a 3. And look there, we have a 3. So I think we're going to contain this one, which is also working towards our completion and getting the bonus card of the 3s. We get to destroy this cube. And then the question is whether we're going to roll these. I do have the 5, 6. The 4 isn't helpful because we have to have all of the same color or all different colors. But there is a 4 of blue there. So I think we're not going to roll for now to get a research card. So for our second action, we're going to remove 2 blue. Take this 4, and we're going to take, which gives us the 4, 5, 6. We get to remove another blue. I think we're going to do this 5. So that's our second action. The question is, what else are we going to do? We could transfer, and because of our special ability, we could adjust that. We don't have a 3 to adjust to a 2. We could go ahead and contain. And we could upgrade our research card. We have a lot of containment to do, so maybe we should just keep that going. I'm looking, we do have 5s coming up, so maybe we should do the 5. Now the 4 and 6 we could re-roll if we want to, and I think we will. Those research cards could be handy. So we get a 4 and a 3. And that containment is our last action. We do get a research card. And I guess I should probably tell you about these when I pick them up. So this one is a research team. Swap labs with another researcher, or choose another researcher to draw a level 3 research card. I don't think the swap labs is super helpful in this case, although if they swapped labs, it opens up space so the transport engineer can more efficiently remove them. That's actually not the worst idea. And there's a 2, 3, 4 situation, or a 3, 4, 5 that the crisis controller can contain on their next turn. So I actually think we're going to use that one right away. Okay, so that is the end of the transport engineer's turn then, because I don't think we should use this other one, which is realignment, relocate up to 2 cubes with a couple more turns before another threat event is going to occur. So we're just going to go ahead and take the normal threat turn. Now you remove the lowest number from the lowest level, but it has to be a removable cube, and there's actually only 1 cube that's removable from this level, so that by default. Oh, and there we go. We have our first breach. Now one strategy is to kind of isolate your danger into maybe 1 or 2 of these Because if you think about it, we now have to adjust 2 of these over to get them away, but then that actually increases your chance of breach, because if you adjust 1 over here, then now there's 2 of the numbers that are now a breach threat. But we can kind of take advantage of this. So here's what I'm thinking. First action, we're going to take the unique action of containing a cube from your lab if there are 3 or more of that value in the primed area. So we're going to do this 2 as one action. We're going to adjust this cube to a 2 as the second action, and as the third, we're going to contain the 2, which allows us to destroy one of these. So maybe then on our next turn, we can get that down and reduce that threat. Now we could use one of the research cards. We have take a destroyed cube of any color, re-roll it, and place it in your lab. That's reclaim. But I wonder if preventing one of the threat events with the ongoing action, the mitigation action, is better. The other one is draw the 3 unused character cards and use one of their abilities, but we don't know what that's going to be. So I think both of those we could probably just save to avoid threats. So we'll go ahead and do the threat phase, which there's only 1 at this lowest level, so that's going to be the default. And that's a 4. And that symbol means we have to prime another one right away. So I think we're going to go ahead and discard the draw the 3 unused character cards immediately, because that's kind of random, whereas this is a true effect of avoiding another cube being put in. So we'll do that. And that means we don't have to do that threat event. All right, it's the transport engineer's turn, and now she has a clean slate. She can start dragging those cubes over with her drone. So we have the purple 2 there. So there's a yellow 2, which we need yellow 2, and orange 2. So I'm thinking we're going to take yellow. And because of her special ability, we need to take 2 yellows. I'm thinking we're going to do the 1 because we haven't done anything with 1s yet. So that is 1 action. And then I think we're going to do orange. We're going to do 3 of orange, which we need. And we'll do this 1, which gives us a second 1 there. So that's the second action. So if we rearrange these around, we can get a run 1, 2. Oh no. Actually, we're okay. I just didn't do it the right way. There we go. We have the run of 1, 2, 3. That's 3 different colors. So I can now contain this orange 3 that we need. The question is, could wait until the next turn and adjust this over and then destroy it. Planning ahead is optimal in this game. I think we may wait and do that so we get a extra effect from that. Get more efficiencies going. So we have this 1 and 2 that we could transfer, but I think we have the 1, 2, and we can maybe adjust this to a 3 and continue doing the sets over there with the 1. So I don't think we're going to do that just because we haven't done it yet. I'm going to use the study action, which allows us to discard this 1 and graduate to a level 3. So let's see what we got. We have major ripple, just 1 prime cube and 1 cube in your lab. And that is our third action. We could use this right away, but we don't want to adjust one in our lab yet, so we could use this on our next turn to adjust that 4 to a 3 and then destroy it when we contain it. So I think we'll hold off for now. So we're on the threat phase. The lowest number cube on the lowest level is going to be this 1. And there we go. That's actually good for us because we were going to contain that 3 now we don't have to adjust that 4, but in the meantime, we have a higher threat of breach there, so we'll see. So it's the crisis controller's turn. We could work on the 4s by adjusting this. We could adjust this, then adjust that, and then destroy it. That's kind of interesting. Do we have an orange 4? Ah, we actually do have an orange 4. So I think we're gonna remove orange 4 as one action. So we have the set of 4, that's 3 different colors. For the second action, we can contain that 4, which allows us to destroy this matching 4 in the prime cubes. I could re-roll these, but I can adjust that to a 4 or maybe transfer, so we should maybe hang on to those. I think we're going to go ahead and prepare for the next turn by adjusting this to a 4. So that's their turn. Go to the threat phase. So this one is going to be primed. Second breach. That's unfortunate because we were just about to remove that orange one, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So, all right, so we definitely need to deal with that situation. So we were already going to do this. So we get to contain this as our first action. We get to destroy this matching cube. You can also re-roll these to get a research card, but kind of have 1s and 2s going there. Well, this is where I think this card is going to come in handy, the Major Ripple, which is adjust 1 prime cube and 1 cube in your lab. So we need a yellow 2, so we're going to play this. I'm going to adjust. Let's make sure I'm doing this right. So we can do a 1, a 2, oops, not adjust it, and that. So we're going to use this to adjust 1 prime cube and 1 cube in your lab. We'll do the cube in the lab first, which will make this a 3, which we don't need, but it allows us to contain this one because we now have a run of 1, 2, 3, and we can adjust 1 prime cube. So we're actually going to adjust this down to 2. So this gets discarded. And then now as the second action, we're going to contain this 2, which allows us to destroy this 2. And the question again is whether we re-roll these. Don't have a research card and they're pretty handy. Don't need a 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. See what we get. And we do get a research card as our compensation then, which this one is energy inversion, which is invert 1 prime cube and 1 cube in your lab, which means you flip them over. So if you were inverting this one, you would invert it by flipping it to the exact opposite side. Okay, so that was a pretty exciting turn. And I just realized when we contained the 3, we should have gotten a containment card. So an even more exciting turn. So this is mass reclamation. Each researcher takes a destroyed cube, rolls it, and places it in their lab. We have a number of destroyed cubes, so I don't see any reason not to do this right now. So this is our set of destroyed cubes. We have 3 of the yellow, so if we could get those, we would get to reclaim another destroyed cube. There's some yellow on here though. So there's a 6, which we do need. There's a 6 of blue and a 6 of purple. Also need the 1 and the 4. We have the 4 there. We have a 1 there, so I think not yellow actually. So there's 3 different colors there, so I think the transport engineer is going to do a blue. So they get a 6 of blue, which maybe will help us with those other 6s. Then we'll have them do an orange because that's the color they're missing. So they get a 1 of orange. All right, and I still have one action left, which is amazing. This has been a great turn for the transport engineer. So I can invert 1 prime cube and 1 cube in my lab. Now we could invert this, which would make it a 5, which would get rid of the threat of a breach this turn. And then the question is, what would I invert here? Kind of need the 6, or at least the 6 seems good with all the 6s we have going on there. Ooh, and the 1 can become a 6 as well, which is interesting, although we do have a yellow 6 there already. But then when you prime the cube from a set, you lose it, so that could actually be handy. I'm feeling the 6s, so we're going to do the energy inversion. We get to invert 1 prime cube, so we're going to invert this one to get rid of the threat of a breach, and we're going to invert this one to a 6. And then the question is, what do we do as our last action? We don't need the orange 3 anymore. I actually think we're going to move that over, because then the crisis controller can actually make a lot of headway on the 4s. So that's the end of their turn. We get to take the threat phase, so that's a removal. 1 is a 6. This one is a 3, so it's going to be the winner. We have a second 5 there. Now we just have 1 5 there right now, so this could go towards maybe using their special ability, but they have a lot of 4s right now, so I don't know if that's going to happen. I think the first thing we're going to do is adjust this to a 4, because I don't think we're going to have 5s very quickly. There are some 5s there, but it would take several turns and we'd have the danger of the breach the whole time. We're then going to contain as our second action this 4, which allows us to destroy this. We're obviously not going to roll those because we're working on those. Although it doesn't provide us the ability to destroy a cube, I think just knocking out these 4s is going to be good. So then as our last action, I'm going to do this yellow 4. So that's that. Do the threat phase, which is going to be this 1, which is going to trigger a threat event. So we have second 2, and that would be priming another cube. I think we're going to dig into preventing things at the top of the game as much as possible. So we're going to discard this using their mitigation ability to avoid having to prime another cube. And it's the transport engineer's turn. I really love how quick the Tesseract threat phase is. It's just so simple, so fast. It's great. All right, so we're going to use the transport engineer's package. We're going to take this purple 6 and then this purple 5. See, I have the 4, 5, 6 and the 6, 6, 6, so lots of options there. Don't have any more room to bring things over. I think we're going to go ahead and prime the 6 so we can work towards getting that complete yellow line. There's not a 6 to destroy, but that's okay. We're not going to re-roll because there's still a number of 6s there. So the question is, we can't get rid of this threat of breach completely, because if we adjust it up or down, it's just going to move the threat. Now with the being able to adjust 1s out, you can have a strategy of moving things down, but it would make more sense to destroy this 1 and then move that later. The question is whether we should keep moving forward with containment. But on our next turn, if we adjusted this 5 to a 6 and then contain the 6, then we could actually destroy that. There is room to remove 2 more cubes also. I think that's what we're going to do for now to have a power move maybe on our next turn. So we're going to remove this 6 and then definitely don't need the 3 there, but we still need that yellow 1 to get the bonus across there. So, the yellow 5 that would maybe allow us to get this orange 5 on a future turn. So maybe that's what we'll do. So that's their last turn. Go to the threat phase. So the lowest one is that second level. Feels like it's disappearing. Help us. So the question is whether we do the orange or the purple. We have a fair bit of purple, so I think we're going to do that. Okay, good roll for us. And then it's the crisis controller's turn. We already have our plan here. We're going to knock out that last 4. So we're going to remove this purple one as a 1. We're going to contain it. Oops, nope. We're going to contain the blue one. Oh, actually, we're going to adjust this to a 4. And as the third one, we're going to contain the 4, which allows us to destroy this. We don't need 4s anymore, and it would be nice to have another research card, so we're going to roll those. 2 1s there, that's kind of nice. Research card. And we did complete this 4, so we get to take a containment card. This one is Mental Link. Draw 3 unused character cards. Immediately play this card to use up to 3 of their abilities at no cost. I see no reason not to use this one right away as well. So we're going to take our researcher deck. We're going to draw 3 of them. And then it says play this card to use up to 3 of their abilities at no cost. It's not completely clear, but I think it means we could use each one once. Because it says play up to 3 of their abilities. So that would be my interpretation of that. So let's see if we want to use these. So we have the magnetic physicist. So their action is repel. If you have 2 cubes in your lab of the same color that sum to 7, transfer 1 and contain the other. So unfortunately, I don't have 2 cubes of the same color that add up to 7, so I cannot use that one. The next one is exogeologist. Action extraction. Return a cube from your lab to the Tesseract to take 2 cubes from the Tesseract. So return a cube from my lab to the Tesseract to take 2. I could get that blue one. We would have to remove this one. So we're going to return the 5. Just put it here and this one. Actually, we could replace it there to stave off our threat event. We then have Demolitions Expert. Detonate. Destroy a prime cube that matches an identical cube in your lab. So do we have any that match? We actually do have one. We have the purple 1. So we will destroy this one. So that was a pretty neat turn. There are definitely some power turns in this game, and it's really fun when it happens. I'm quite enjoying that in this game in particular. Okay, so now we have the threat phase. So it looks like this 2 is going to be the lowest one. It's a good roll for us. It is now the transport engineer's turn. I think what we're going to do is we're going to adjust this up to a 6. We're going to contain this 6, which allows us to destroy this. Now we could re-roll these, but we're not going to because I think we can make more moves on the 6s. So that was our second action. And we need purple and orange. I think those 6s may need to hang out for a little bit. Removing one doesn't make sense because we can't be efficient and take 2 right now. We do have this 4, 5, 6. Just get these in order too. So we could contain one of those purple ones. If we contain the purple 6 though, that's gonna prohibit us on a future turn from finishing off that row, which I think we can do in a couple turns. So we could do the 5, but we can adjust this for 2 of 5, and that way on our next turn we could destroy that. I'm pretty proud of my mitigation in the primed area in this game. Yeah, I'm very happy about that. So that's their turn. So now it's the threat phase. So the lowest one is going to be this one, which is going to trigger an event. That's a 4, that's good for us. So this event is Fission. Prime the lowest cube on the Tesseract and 1 random destroyed cube. The crisis controller, it says whenever a threat is revealed, you may discard a research card to ignore that event's effect. So whenever, even though it was just the transport engineer's turn. So we are definitely going to do that. We don't want more cubes getting primed. So now it's the crisis controller's turn. Going to adjust the purple one to a 1. And then we're going to contain the 1, which allows us to destroy that. The question is whether we want to re-roll these to get another one to avoid, because we don't have another 1 right there. I think we will. So 5 and a 6 there. So the question is what we do with our last turn. So there's a 4, but we have to have all different colors. Another 6, but actually what we can do, because the transport engineer, whenever a cube is transferred to you, you may adjust it. So we could set them up instead of having them take the 5 and then having to adjust it. We can transfer this 5 and adjust it 1 to a 6, if I can find the 6. And then they're set up on their next turn to make more progress on the 6s. So that's their turn. We have the threat phase, which it looks like this 4 is going to be the lowest. Okay, having some really good luck on our prime rolls. And now it's the transport engineer's turn. So they're going to contain that orange 6 to destroy that. So I don't think we want to roll those because we need the purple 6 still. And we also have the plan of destroying that 5. So that will be it for that. I think our next action is going to be to do that 5, which allows us to destroy that. Could reroll the 4 and 6, but we still need that 6. So we're going to hold off on that. And the question is, how can we get that 6 set up? Now we do have this 5, 6. We could remove 2 purples, would be that 6 and that 4, but that's a lot of purple and we already have done purple, so that doesn't really help us that much and potentially clogs up our lab. We could take the orange 4 and 5, then we'd have the 4, 5, 6, but we would trigger an event right away. But that would happen on the Tesseract's turn anyway. And we need the orange 5 anyway also. So I think we're going to do that. It seems a little crazy to purposely trigger it, but it's our third action. We're taking the 4 and the 5. We do trigger the chain reaction, which means we have to prime another cube. So right now, this one is the lowest removable. So 2 4s there, so we do have a threat of a breach there. And that's their turn. And then now we have to actually do the normal threat phase, which is going to trigger another threat event. So got another breach there, and then we have to prime the lowest cube in the Tesseract and one random destroyed cube. So the lowest removable cube is going to be this 5. Whoa. Now our luck is changing on those rolls. And one random destroyed cube, so I'm going to just cover these up so I don't see them. I'm just going to grab one out and then roll, and that's a 3. So wow, we have lots of issues with the 4s, and unfortunately we already have all the 4s, so it doesn't help us with their ability. So how do we deal with this 4 situation, I think, is the biggest question here. So one thing we can do is we could adjust this 4 to a 6. It would take 2 turns, but then on their next turn they could destroy it. There's also the 5 of blue, because if we get too many built up here, then it could be really hard to remedy. So I don't love it, but I think we just need to mitigate a little bit. We're still going to have a threat of a breach this turn, but we can start working towards dealing with it. So 1 is going to be adjusting this to a 5. 2 is going to be adjusting to a 6. 3 is going to be adjusting that to a 5. We still have the threat of breach there, but spread things out a little bit. So let's see what happens on the threat phase. So we're going to have another event. So we'll look at that in a second. Oh my gosh, we did get another 4. And that event is accelerate. Destroy the lowest cube on the Tesseract, which is going to be, there's only this one that's removable, so this gets destroyed. Okay, so only 2 more breaches and we are done. And we're so close to success here. Well, I think if we complete this, we're going to get the bonus card, which those are really helpful. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So with this run here, we're going to prime the 6, which allows us to destroy that. We can re-roll the 4 and 5, which looking at, we don't need that 5, we don't need that 4. We can prime this 5 there, which we could adjust that up to destroy. So I think we need some help. 6, 1, we definitely need 1s. So we do get a research card for that. We got minor fluctuation, adjust 1 primed cube, which we may well use on this turn. So I think we're going to adjust this to a 5. And then we're going to prime that 5 to destroy that. And we can re-roll these, so 4 and 6. But if we can get a blue 5, which we can do by taking that over here. So we're not going to re-roll those for now. The question is, do we adjust with the card we just got? But if we adjust that, we still have a danger of a breach. So we just really have to hope that we do not get a 4. But we forgot that we get the 6 containment card because we completed that. So we have dimensional pocket. Ooh, contain 1 primed cube. So we are going to do that right now to contain this 5. And that is going to give us this 5 bonus card, which is take +3 actions this turn. So the question is whether we do that right now or not. It says we can use it on any researcher's turn, so we could use it on the crisis controller's turn too. So we really got to think about this. Now what I do know is we need to address this because we only have 2 breaches left. So I think we're going to use our minor fluctuation, which is adjust 1 primed cube. And we're going to adjust this 4 to a 5 to eliminate the threat of a breach on the next threat phase. Okay, the transport engineer is all about efficiency, so I feel like it's going to be probably best used on hers. Question is to do what? So we need 1s, which we only have 1 right now. We have these 6s that aren't doing anything for us, man. kind of interesting, this in-game ending up more clogged up than I have in the past. So let's see what we have here. We could take 2 of one color. Don't really need the yellows though, and then we only have 6s. It would take a lot of adjustments. Huh. Don't need any purple, but we could use that to create sets or runs for other things. So we have a 1 and 2 crisis. We have this 1, get that 3. So we could transfer this yellow over, and we can adjust it once when we do that because of her efficiency. And we can adjust it again and it would be a 1. These high numbers left here are really not good for us. Just gotta hope when in the threat phase, some of these numbers underneath there are helpful for us. If we could get this 2 though, then we would be able to get the bonus card there. So maybe that's what we should look at for now. So we're gonna, as our first of our third, I guess we can start over because we get 3 more actions. We're gonna transfer this over, and because of her efficiency, it can go to 2. As the second action, can adjust this over. We don't have to adjust it, so that would be 2. And now they're set up to contain that. I have these useless 2 yellows there. Don't do anything for me. I have 1 more action. I could adjust this 1 away, and then maybe on their turn they adjust this down and then they destroy that, and that would help clear this up because I feel like we're going to have some bad turns coming up. So I think as their last action, they're going to adjust this 1 away to destroy it, and that's the 3 bonus actions from that card. Definitely came at a good time given the bad situation we're facing. So we do have to do the threat phase, which is going to trigger another event. So there's a 2, which is good because now we can destroy that without having to adjust. And then the one underneath there is re-roll the lowest prime cube. So we get a choice when there's a tie. We want to leave that 2 there. So we have another 4. Those 4s are really hating us. So I think as their first action, they are going to contain this 2, which is going to allow us to destroy this. And then we can re-roll these if we want. I think we do to get a research card. And the 3 and 4 don't really help us a lot. A 2 and a 3, those are actually better for us. Get a research card. We have minor fluctuation, adjust 1 primed. And we do get our 2 bonus here. We are kind of in the zone of maybe winning. We have a lot of cubes left. Our biggest threat right now is the breaches. It is a breach shield. Take a prime cube and place it on this card. The next time a prime cube with this value would cause a breach, destroy it and this cube and ignore the breach. I think given our luck with the 4s and the fact that we're facing a breach which is going to take several moves to avoid right now, I think we're going to go ahead and do that for the 4. So we have a breach shield on the 4s. And now, as luck, as you all probably know, we'll probably never roll a 4 again from the primed. Okay, so that was the first turn. So we have a 2-3. If we can get a 1 of something, then we would be able to prime it. But we are not having 1s here. So the question is, do we just start adjusting the crap out of things? That seems a little crazy because we could adjust this down to 5-4. Now we could transfer it to be 5-4, but then that's the same. It takes the same number of turns. Right now I can only remove 6s or 4. The 4 is also purple. I'm not in love with it, but we got to start taking action. So we're going to do it. So we're going to do this to a 5. Second time to a 4. Not great, but what are we going to do? So now we have the threat phase. This is the lowest removable cube. 6. That's a good roll for us. So what the heck is the transport engineer gonna do? She has these useless 2 6s. Now when she transfers, so we do have those 3s that if she moved over, she could adjust them. Thing is, they have to be all same color, all different colors. It's gonna take 3 more adjustments to get those. This actually has all 3 showing, so I can actually remove it. So now we can use our ability to remove the second yellow, but I do not think that's a good idea right now. So that is 1, 2. Now this has 3 exposed. That's 2. We could remove a second, a purple. We don't need any more purple. And we have a couple purples to play with. We only need lower number 1, so that's not going to help. That was only my second action. So I think our third action is to transfer the yellow over because we need to contain one of those. We don't need to contain purple, so it doesn't do anything to have us have 2. So we can adjust this down to a 2 when we transport it. Working towards the future. And it may have been a mistake to remove that 3 now that I'm thinking about it, but it's late and that's how it goes sometimes. All right, threat phase. Another 4. So that goes there. The shield doesn't take place until we roll another 4. So maybe we will get to actually use that. And then we do have to prime another one, which is going to be this one. Unfortunately, because we really could have used that one. So now we have another threat of breach there. Okay, how many turns is it going to take us to do this? Look at all this 5, 6, 4s. It's not good. So do we just keep going with the adjustment game? Guess that's maybe best option. Now if we get this 1, or actually if we get any of them, we get to return a cube from the destroyed cube pool, which could really help us because there are some 1s in there. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and we're set up. Oh, actually, let's not do that as the third one. Let's leave this as the 4, because what we should actually do is use the last one to adjust this down so that we have the shield on the 4s and to prevent something, and we'll probably roll a different one and create a different danger, but we shall see. We do have this, which we should probably use since we're about to have another threat event. So this 2, and then that's prime another one. I think we're going to go ahead and use this to avoid that. So all of the action is going on over here. It was totally a mistake to take that 3. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking because we already have all the purples, but oh well. So it's going to be all about mitigation. So we're going to do this to 1, and then we're going to destroy it because we've already primed that. Then we're going to do this to adjust this down to 1, and then hopefully we can get an orange 1 and make that happen. And the good news is we have no possibility of breach this turn, I think. We'll see. So threat phase, the lowest removable cube is this one, which is kind of in the middle. So we have a 3 there. So we're going to contain this 1. There are no yellow 1s to do. Oh, actually we cannot do that yet. We have to adjust this to 3, and then we can contain that 1, which there's none to destroy. We need this machine for our other ones. Now the good news is we get this bonus, which is returning destroyed cube to the Tesseract. We're definitely going to do this orange one because we can destroy that when we contain it. We're going to put it on the highest level there to make it last, since we are going to get a threat event on the next round. Though I really want to take that now, I think we need to mitigate the threat of a breach here. So we're going to actually adjust this up to a 4 since we have that breach shield. Adjusting into a row, making it 3 or more, does not cause a breach. Only when the Tesseract primes a cube and there's 3 or more does it cause a breach. And we have the breach shield there, so containing all of our threat into that lane is our best option there. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to see what we get here. So we have to prime this. 2, it's good for us, but it's chain reaction, so we do have to prime the lowest cube on the Tesseract, which is this one. 1, another orange 1. Oh, okay. We have the plan for the orange 1, and then I think this 3 of blue is going to be our best bet to get to that, but it's going to take a couple of adjustments. I think first off though, because we only have those 2 breaches and we're going to get another event there, that we're going to adjust as the first action this away. And then, because we're going to get another, I'm guessing it's a chain reaction since the other 3 in the middle are that. It might be good to get this 3 over there. We can adjust one of these there and just take a guess to try to mitigate our chance of a breach. We could actually, well, we don't want to do both of those, because then if we end up with 5 and we roll 2 4s, that would actually be 2 breach events if you end up priming a cube and it causes 6 or more. So if we had 2 there, man, luck is definitely what this is turning to a little bit at the end. How can we mitigate that? We could go ahead and destroy this other one, so that way it eliminates 1s as a possibility. I think that's not a bad idea. It's a direct reduction of the probabilities. If we adjusted one of these as well, that would be a direct reduction of the probabilities. So I think we'll do that as our third. I don't know. 5s or 3s. What do y'all think? We haven't rolled a 5 for a while, so maybe it's going to be that. Okay, so that is the transport engineer's turn. So we do have to do this one. And it's a 4. So the breach shield, we get to destroy this, and this goes away. And we do have a chain event, so we have to do the next lowest. I don't think it makes a difference whether we do the yellow or purple, because we've already done those anyway. Okay, we'll do this one. And it's a 6. All right. I think for our first action, I'm going to adjust this down to a 5 to eliminate that on the next round. Thankfully, we're not going to have a threat event for once. And then we're going to take the 1, going to prime it, which does allow us to bring back a destroyed cube to the Tesseract. So if we take this blue 2, then it's only going to take 1 adjustment to get to a 1, but we need the 3. We do have the 3 there, but it would also take us 1 turn to take the blue 2 and adjust it, which is how many it would take just to adjust that one. So we could just do the 3 over. I guess that's an idea. We could just take 3. But I don't think it's going to make a difference. Because we have to get that down to a 1. So even if we took a different one and then, so I think we're just spinning our wheels here. So we're just gonna do this as a 3. And then we're back to the threat phase, and we're just gonna end up removing it anyway. So going to prime this, and that's a 4. And that is another breach. Wow. So if we roll another 4, we are done for. Ha ha ha. But if we do any others, now they're all contained there. So I think we just have to bet on not rolling a 4, because we have to get back to the crisis controller's turn. Oh my gosh. Okay, through the magic of cinema, I discovered that I missed a threat event earlier, one of these yellow ones, which is destroy the lowest cube on the Tesseract. So we're going to do that now, which is definitely not good for us, because that means we're going to have a threat event on this next one. But I feel like, in fairness, we should do that. So we will just have to deal with what happens, even though we're really close to winning, and that would totally suck. But that's the thing. When you are playing games in your day-to-day life, you do not film them and watch them back and discover your rules errors, sometimes to your benefit, sometimes to your detriment. And this is one that gave us an unfair advantage, so we're just going to have to roll with that. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move this 3 here, because if we can adjust this blue to a 1 on the crisis controller's next turn, then we will be able to contain it. We can adjust 1, 2, 3, and win. But we have 2 more turns. 1, 2, the thing is, if we adjust any of these 4s, because if we get any breaches at all, now what we could do, because we are going to have another event, is we could adjust this and get rid of the 2. 1, 2, destroy. The main thing is we have to survive this threat phase. So reducing the possibility of breach is going to be the best. So we're going to go to 1, going to destroy that. And now we're going to see if we lose. So we have to prime this. That's a 5. And this is a really bad one. Prime the lowest cube on the Tesseract and 1 random destroyed cube. So we have like a 40% chance of losing just on this roll. Okay. And then 1 random destroyed cube too. So it says random, so we're just gonna swirl these around and just take one. Doesn't really matter at this point. And now we have a 50% chance of losing. And wowzy wow. This is really down to the wire, but it is now the crisis controller's turn. You get to adjust to a 2. We get to adjust to a 1. And we get to contain it. And that is kind of a miracle. We did that adjustment from our miss earlier, and that almost destroyed us. I don't know how it didn't. So, wow. This game certainly kept me on my toes. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Playing at the lower difficulties, I was a little worried, but I think playing with the different researchers, playing with different people, using different plates, it's going to give this game some longevity. We'll see how much. We'll keep playing at it and come back with a review here in a bit. But thank you for being here. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. And, just remember, the only rule is that there are no rules. except in board games.